Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Cabinet meeting of Melton Borough Council. Members are reminded that we will be using the audio-visual system this afternoon, and the meeting will also be streamed live on YouTube. The leader has given me his apologies for the meeting, and so as Deputy Leader, I'll be chairing the meeting tonight. I can confirm that Director of Housing and Communities is joining the meeting remotely, so she'll be on the screens either here or behind me. Members are asked to physically raise their hands in the usual way to indicate they wish to speak and to use their microphones when speaking for the benefit of all present. Please switch your mobiles to silent like I have just done. I will now provide a reminder of the evacuation procedure. In the event of having to evacuate the council chamber, please leave by one of the 6 emergency exits around the side of the chamber. Please assemble at the far side of the front car park, nearest to the park entrance. Officers will be on hand to assist persons who require any assistance. Public recording of the meeting. There is legislation that allows the public to film, record, or use social media at a council meeting. This must not be disruptive to the good order of the meeting, nor include any filming or recording of the public seating area. I'd like to move on now to the agenda. Item 1, apologies for absence. We have apologies from the leader, Councillor Pip Almert. Next item, item 2, is to confirm the minutes of the Cabinet meeting held on the 13th of September. I presume you've all read them, and thank you. I would like to propose that these are a true record of the minutes. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Cox. The minutes, can we please raise our hands to we confirm the minutes? Thank you. Councillor Cumbers, do you agree? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So the minutes are confirmed as approved. Declarations of interest. Can I invite Cabinet members who wish to do so to make declarations of interest in respect of items on the agenda this evening? There are no declarations. Thank you. Item 4. The following items have been referred from Scrutiny Committee in accordance with the Scrutiny Procedure Rules. The first item is preparing for regulatory change, and I would like to invite Councillor Brown to come to the table, please. Thank you. Thank you for coming along today. Was it the traffic bad? Oh, right. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. You have the report from Scrutiny in front of you. The first of the items that we considered at our last meeting was in respect of preparing for regulatory change in housing. I think it's important to acknowledge that this was, in a sense, a start of the process, and we received an update on the amount of work that had already been undertaken to address the need for the council to ensure that it was in line with the requirements of the new regulatory regime that's going to apply in housing. And we also received a presentation, quite a detailed presentation, which we found very helpful to amplify on the report before us. There were a number of items that Scrutiny particularly are drawing to your attention. Sorry, I'm trying to scroll. The first of those related to the issue of rent arrears. I think the Cabinet will be aware that not just recently, but for some time, there has been a concern about the level of rent arrears, and there's certainly the number of tenants currently in arrears is unacceptably high. Measures were brought in last year, and provision was made to improve the robustness of the department's ability to address this issue. And certainly as Scrutiny, we were satisfied that a great deal of work has already been done, and that continues to make progress. But I think it's fair to say that turning around the issue of rent arrears in the current economic climate is a bit like trying to stop an oil tanker. It's not an instant fix, but we were satisfied that the resources that have now been put into that process of engaging with tenants and seeking to reduce the arrears currently on the books was being successful, and we should see positive results from that in the coming period. So the committee was satisfied that the right steps are being taken, but it's right and proper that not just scrutiny, but the whole council is alive to the problems here and keeps an eye on this issue and ensures, I would certainly say, that the resources needed to enable our staff to continue the work they've already started are provided. One of the concerns flagged up here related to, and it was raised by a particular member of the committee, but I think we all shared the view that we wanted to be assured that where we have difficulties with tenants who damage properties, that appropriate steps can be taken to remove them. You'll see there that we're assured that there are sufficient tools. We didn't elaborate on the whole range of tools, but there's a range of measures that can be taken to satisfy us that those sorts of situations can be resolved. But again, it's not an easy process, because it does involve a number of legal hoops to jump through in order to actually proceed. There was a view from some members of the committee, and I was one of them, that under the new regulatory regime, only 48 hours notice may be given of an inspection. And we understand there was a correlation with Ofsted, phoning up a school the day before and descending on it. And of course, the reason for short notice is to ensure that the organisation can't go around tidying up and hiding away its skeletons before the inspectors arrive. But certainly I felt, and I think some other members of the committee felt, that whilst we recognise that, given this is housing and it's a bit hard to hide any properties and any tenants and any other issues, there's a little bit more notice rather than putting pressure on officers. But that was just a view we expressed and felt it could be part of the consultation that I know the council is able to feed back to government over. We received an assurance, and again, we were pleased to hear that some of the underspending that has previously occurred is no longer the issue it was. And the importance of that, of course, is that we want to see the necessary works and the funds that are available being spent properly to ensure our properties are not just maintained, but improved as appropriate. And then finally, as you'll see here, there's a proposal that will hold a further review of the where things are in April 2024. As I indicated at the start, this is not a simple process. There's an awful lot of work being undertaken, and we thought it right and proper that there be an update in April 2024. And the suggestion has been made, which I certainly support, that we might try and facilitate that happening outside of these offices. Well, in fact, the April meeting has to happen outside of this room because it's being used for the Police and Crime Commissioner elections. But we thought it would be a good opportunity to actually combine that with some measure of tenant engagement. So the officers are looking at what options may be available to hold the meeting in an appropriate community facility. So.
Thank you. Shall we deal with this particular item first, and then we'll go on to the second scrutiny report, so that we don't get confused with both of them? I think that's probably the best way to go. So thank you to scrutiny for the statement, which is both balanced and fair in assessment. I suggest we note all of them and refer them for consideration and report back to scrutiny. In advance of this meeting, I've had the chance to speak to the portfolio holder, Councillor Alnett, who sadly cannot attend this evening. We have the same opinion with regard to the preparing for the regulatory change for housing. In advance of this meeting, I've had a chance to speak to the portfolio holder, and we are both of the opinion that we appreciate there were problems and difficulties going back some years. In the past 2 or 3 years, some sterling work has been undertaken by a small dedicated workforce to remedy the situation. This work is continuing. Any members want to comment at all? No?
I think we'd, in particular, in relation to the arrears, we've requested as Cabinet that the action plan is constantly monitored and fed back to Cabinet, which I think, we thank scrutiny for highlighting that, but that's something we're very mindful of as well, as there's been such great strides made in relation to council tax. So it's only right that we now focus on this.
Totally agree with that. Thank you. Do you want to continue with the next item that you? Okay.
Yes, thank you, Chair. The next item that was considered at the meeting, and if I say anything that's outside of the public arena, I'll look to Adam to squeak at me or do something appropriate, because we were discussing, as you'll see, a range of issues relating to the management of the cattle market site, and the various leases and financial arrangements that existed. And some of that discussion quite properly took place in an exempt session, but I have been assured that the comments made here can all be dealt with in an open session and don't compromise the confidentiality that applied to some of the documents that are in front of scrutiny committee. I think it's true that there was some confusion, and I think there is some confusion, not just within the council but in the town, as to exactly what the arrangements are regarding the management of the cattle market site. And one of the first issues that came up was the use of the term tenant, and the fact that actually is quite a broad term in terms of the arrangement that exists at the cattle market. There are a range of different business arrangements in effect that exist there, and in particular the position of the subtenants. I mean, I think it was very helpful, and yeah, it was a difficult discussion in that there's a lot of detail here that it was hard to grasp at times. But certainly I think I found it very helpful, and I think the committee did, that the position of the subtenants and their relationship to the tenant in chief, if I can use that term, is not something that the council actually has immediate control over, although there are some measures in terms of the arrangements that the tenant in chief enters into with subtenants, which requires them to consult with us and to seek our approval, which must not be unreasonably withheld, I think, in the terms of how it's set out. So it was useful to clarify that, because I think there was some false assumptions that we had direct relationships with some of these businesses that operate out of the stockyard. We did feel, however, and I believe this has actually already been addressed, and I'll stand to be corrected if that's not the case, that the way in which rent reviews are undertaken, we should ensure complete independence in the way that's carried out. I mean, dare I say, it's in the nature of a small town that there's a lot of overlap between the various businesses that operate in the town. And I think as a council, we need to be seen to be scrupulous and ensuring that the processes of reviewing the rents, not just of the tenant in chief, but of the subtenants, is above reproach and is carried out independently, and has the aim of maximising the revenue to this council. And I think that was a theme through our discussions, that this is a resource that we should be seeking to maximise the income from and maximise the benefits to the town from. There was quite a lot of discussion about car parking, both in respect of the car parking in what's called Area E of the site, which is just off the Nottingham Road, but also the car park on Scolford Road. I took the opportunity to go to Scolford Road car park the other day. I haven't been there for a long while, and I picked my way through the vegetation. And there were a few cars parked there, but it's clearly an underutilised resource. So there was a sense at the committee that we should be exploring how we can improve the use of that car park, and in particular the revenue we get from it. The cattle market site itself, I think there's no question there were some strong views about the way in which the tenant in chief uses the car parking that's available on that site. I think it was very helpful and illuminating that the officers were able to explain the history of how the various arrangements had come about. And I think it's understandable that at the time that arrangements were entered into, there was a logic to those in terms of the arrangements with the tenants, but also the benefits to the council. This is where I want to be careful not to overstep the mark, but there were certainly arrangements made about entered into in using that car parking, where there was a degree of quid pro quo in terms of other works on the site not having to be funded by the council. So it's hard to quantify what that benefit may have been, but certainly it was a benefit to the council not to have to undertake some works in return in a sense for the use of the car parking. But nevertheless, Scrutiny do feel that there are some issues about the way that car parking space is used. Certainly events that take place at the cattle market are able to advertise free car parking on what is actually a council car park, council land. Forgive me, I've managed to switch my thing off. Whereas events elsewhere in the town don't have that benefit. So it's something we feel should be explored further. And I think as part of that, and I just want to assure Cabinet, this is not meant to be a criticism of the officers or of some of the previous decisions taken, but I think we can learn from arrangements we've previously entered into as to how we can do things better going forward with the whole development of the site, and ensuring that again the benefits to the residents are maximised and the site is used appropriately. And that applies both to this issue of car parking, but also to the general arrangements for leases. I think that's as much as I can say by reference to the comments without straying into confidential territory. But I'm sure there'll be an opportunity maybe to amplify on that directly to Cabinet members outside of this arena. But I think they've been made, the details that were received by Scrutiny being made available to them. I think just in summary, I mean, it was a lively discussion and at times difficult, but I do think I came away with a very firm view that the officers got a good grasp on how this needed to go forward. And as with other issues that we found ourselves dealing with in recent months, I think what's more important is what we do going forward than trying to unpick what might or might not have happened in the past. The only important thing within that is we definitely learn from some of the issues that have arisen in the past. So I hope that makes sense as summarising the discussion. I think the only final thing to say is that I became aware during the meeting and indeed prior to the meeting that to some extent we were retreading territory that had been gone over previously within the Scrutiny Committee in the last year. And I think whilst I've said we as a council need to learn, I think Scrutiny needs to learn that we can't keep coming back to the same thing through a different route, and we need to be a bit more focused in how we carry out these reviews. Thank you.
Thank you for your report. That's very, very interesting. Thank you. And well done for leaving out the confidential nature of various things that we had to deal with that evening. I'm quite interested in the fourth bullet point in your scrutiny report, referring to the site allocated for future development. This is being developed under the Levelling Up Fund scheme. Despite the concerns raised about the LUF process, which is the Levelling Up Fund, and legacy mess the Cabinet is having to deal with before we can chart general improvements to car parking as part of the corporate strategy. The Scrutiny Committee is assured that all options are on the table so far as both car parking and their arrangements are alluded to in their fifth bullet point. At this stage, Cabinet is not able to add any more, as at the last scrutiny meeting, much was held in closed sessions, as you've mentioned, and the 5 bullet points in your report represent the tip of a much bigger iceberg, in particular the issues hidden by scrutiny's second bullet point, which are under consideration. I'd like to hand over to Councillor Cox. I dare say she wants to have a few words on this as your portfolio holder. Thank you.
Firstly, I'd like to thank Scrutiny for the report and the feedback. I think one of the things to highlight is these are leases that were inherited and they are quite long-standing leases. I have the assurance of the Director for Growth and Regeneration that we have learnt a lot about leases through the evaluation of the leases that currently exist, and that going forward the main objective will be to maximise the income for our council from that site and the opportunities that we've got on the horizon. I can assure members of Scrutiny that we will be independently reviewing the rents in the upcoming rent review, and we agree that that is the most appropriate way forward. The team have already begun consultation with the leaseholder in relation to how together we can maximise opportunities from car parking until we enter the development under the LUF process. What the report from Scrutiny and the experience of Scrutiny have highlighted to myself as a portfolio holder and the team is that we need to explore all options in relation to how that site is managed or leased going forward, and that needs to be done in a proper evaluation process with all options considered by us as Cabinet. And therefore I thank Scrutiny for raising that, because I think it highlighted to us all that we need a proper independent evaluation done of that with all options explored. So that will be the work that we undertake as we develop that site. Okay, thank you.
I think we all thought that, but it's good to have the Scrutiny confirm what our sort of feelings were on it. But thank you very much. I'd just like members to note that the recommendation is here to be noted, so therefore there's no vote required this evening. But thank you very much. Thank you. It's very worthwhile. Thank you. Right, item 5 is the Intensive Housing Management Service Review. I would like to, well, I presume the Director for Housing and Communities, or are you doing it, Alison? Are we online?
I'm here. Can you hear me, Councillor Clancy?
I can see you, sorry. I think, oh, she's disappeared.
Thank you. So apologies that I can't be in the room tonight, but after this item, if members have got any questions, then Alison is in the room to be able to answer those. So in terms of the Intensive Housing Management Review, as members will be aware, a review of the Intensive Housing Management Service has been underway for some time. An awful lot of work has gone into that. This report this evening provides an update on the review, and it makes a number of recommendations as set out in section 2 of your report. As part of the report, authority is requested to enable customers who have confirmed a wish to opt out of the Intensive Housing Management Service to do so, but to do so in a planned and managed way. Authority is also requested to consult formally with residents in sheltered and dispersed accommodation on options for future support, future assistive technology, and the costs associated with that. This is a really important area of work for the council, and it is considered that managing the review in this incremental way, as set out in the report, is the most pragmatic approach, seeking to balance the needs of tenants and their wishes, but also with balancing that with affordability and effective service delivery considerations. And those considerations are both for tenants and for us as a council. The report sets out the approach that will enable the outcome of that consultation work and the associated recommendations to be considered by Cabinet in January. And just so that Cabinet are clear, that will be a key decision-making point in terms of the future of the service for residents. It goes without saying that officers would engage with ward councillors as we do that piece of consultation work so that they're aware of what's happening in their wards. Members, whilst it's not part of your decision making this evening, I did just want to take the opportunity also to provide you with an update on the recruitment to the post of the Independent Living Officer at Gretton Court. And I'm pleased to confirm that as part of that wider review, an appointment has been made, and officers will be happy to discuss that with you outside of this meeting. That's all from me at the moment. So I'll hand back to you, Deputy Leader, and if there are any questions, then please feel free to bring Alison in. Thank you.
Thank you. This paper follows considerable briefing, drafting and redrafting. I'd like to commend the recommendations at 2.1 to 2.8. The paper demonstrates that officers are dealing with the VEX problem at pace and ingenuity. It is a substantial legacy problem. This cabinet is dealing with it. This paper is a stage in a difficult journey. I'd like to open the debate. Any questions? If you have to raise your hand. Councillor Cox.
I think I just wanted to make a comment and thank the officers for the briefing in relation to what is, a difficult subject. However, I think I was assured during briefings and preparation of the paper that this allowed individuals to have personal control of their budgets, and in a time of limited finance, freeing money and allowing people to make personal choices around how their money would be managed is the most important thing we do for our tenants. We also received assurance that tenants would have signposting available to them that would allow them to look at other options and therefore develop their own personalised level of support that they would want, rather than just a one size fits all. So I felt that tailored, bespoke, personal options for our tenants will be better.
Just to recap, I moved the motion. I was looking for a seconder and I thought that's what you were going to do. Sorry. I didn't want to stop you when you were in full flow.
Happy to say.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Right, so the cabinet notes the recommendation. Well, we'll vote on the recommendations from 2.1 to 2.8. Can you please have a vote? Raise your hands in support. Thank you. That's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Well, I think that concludes this evening's cabinet meetings, and there's nothing else on the agenda. We're all done. Gosh, thank you very much, everybody, for attending. Thank you. And thank you, Councillor Brown, for attending as well. Thank you. Thank you.